First call to leadership is the first time you can remember being able to see yourself in the mirror. So let's all get granular about this, right? Because you're all leading one person in life, and that's you. Whether you think you're a leader of people or not, you are, because you got to lead that person that's staring back at you through the glass every single day. So that's like the basic. But in terms of a bigger leadership role, I've been doing that pretty much my entire life, especially when I got to college and worked on the university newspaper as the entertainment editor, and then went into television, became a TV producer, went into insurance sales, and went from agent into leadership within just a few years. And then it's becoming a leader in terms of motivation, inspiration, and like you said, positively impacting the lives of 1 billion people. You have this mission inside of you that is in my soul and came about probably about 7-8 years ago, because your soul doesn't shout, it just whispers to you. And all of a sudden I was like, this is what I want to do, but how am I going to do that? And then the You Matter movement kind of crystallized itself kind of organically, which I can tell the story about. But, leadership it can be on a sales team, it could be for a newspaper, it could be for a TV broadcast, but then it's more of a global movement to lead people through a journey of making sure that they are doing all they can with all they have been given.
This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Mary Lou Kaiser here. Welcome to today's episode of the Play Your Position podcast. I am glad you decided to join us today because my guest is going to take us on his leadership journey, which is unlike any others you've heard before. And he's got some exciting things going on that I think are going to make a difference to not just you today, but give you some food for thought. His name is Mark Brodinsky. Mark, are you ready for kickoff?
Go, Mary Lou. I was born ready. So let's go.
I love it. Let's do it. So Mark Brodinsky team is an Emmy-Award winning television producer, speaker, popular blogger, and published author. He's got a couple of books. He is on a mission to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people. That's with a B. And he has just got it. He's been getting started with this and has a great story he's going to share a little bit later today about a recent trip he took. But one of the things that Mark believes is that stories are everything. People remember stories. We all need a narrative to define our lives. And this is part of what he does. He is all about motivation. He's really in tune with the theme and overall mission here at the Play Your Position podcast. And Mark, let's set the stage for people. Let us know more about you and your leadership journey. When did you get that call? How old were you? What was going on in your life at the time? Give us some context about what you're doing as a leader in the world today.
So Mary Lou, first of all, thank you. It's an honor to be here. That's a great question, because when you really think about it, right? So the first call to leadership is the first time you can remember being able to see yourself in the mirror. So let's all get granular about this, right? Because you're all leading one person in life, and that's you. Whether you think you're a leader of people or not, you are, because you got to lead that person that's staring back at you through the glass every single day. So that's like the basic. But in terms of a bigger leadership role, I've been doing that pretty much my entire life, especially when I got to college and worked on the university newspaper as the entertainment editor, and then went into television, became a TV producer, went into insurance sales, and went from agent into leadership within just a few years. And then it's becoming a leader in terms of motivation, inspiration, and like you said, positively impacting the lives of 1 billion people. You have this mission inside of you that is in my soul and came about probably about 7-8 years ago, because your soul doesn't shout, it just whispers to you. And all of a sudden I was like, this is what I want to do, but how am I going to do that? And then the You Matter movement kind of crystallized itself kind of organically, which I can tell the story about. But, leadership it can be on a sales team, it could be for a newspaper, it could be for a TV broadcast, but then it's more of a global movement to lead people through a journey of making sure that they are doing all they can with all they have been given and that they matter. And that's really important to me, to make sure people can tap into their inner selves and bring about change in themselves, in which they can then use that as a light to change the world.
That's a fabulous mission. So do you remember a specific day, or maybe it was at an event of some kind? It could have been a family barbecue. It could have been you were on an airplane traveling from one point to another. When you realize what you just described, when you realize, man, I'm leading myself. How old were you when that awareness became clear for you?
So the awareness actually came at an older age, because you hear that through books and podcasts and other things that I study in personal growth and self-improvement, that you're leading at least one person, which is the person staring back at you in the mirror every day. But then you kind of backtrack, right? Because it's like Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots moving forward, you only connect them looking back. And so then looking back, just like I described, are all the things that I've done in terms of what I would view as a concrete, tangible leadership position. But when you look back and really think about your life, you have to lead yourself through a lot of things in life, including challenges, problems, and obstacles, which, just like anyone else on this planet, I've had plenty. And so getting through that, you have to lead yourself through that. And any challenge that you face in life, you might have help, but at the end of the day, you're the person that has to make it happen, because it's action that changes things, not just thought. You can think you're a leader, but you have to actually do something about it. It's the doing that makes the difference, not just thinking.
Right. And you've got, like anybody who's lived, more than a couple of decades, you have a rich professional history, things like being a television producer, and you've written a couple of books, you've been blogging, you speak, you're now behind this new You Matter movement that you're very passionate about. And it is true that as we get older and develop that sense of, oh yeah, I am leading myself here, that no one else is in charge. And when we're young, it's easy to just pass it off as, we're that unconscious competence, right? We show up and do things, but we're not really aware of why we're as good at what we are. I'd love for you to talk to us about your professional journey. You've had leadership roles in various categories. For people who are listening, Mark, who may be at that pivotal point where they're done with one thing, they've maybe been wearing the same t-shirt for 20 years, 25 years, maybe even 10 years. Talk to us about, how did you arrive at this notion of, I'm going to transition out of X and move into Y?
Yeah. So the biggest transition I made in my life professionally, and I can talk about personally later, but professionally, is going from television to insurance, because I run an insurance division for an insurance company as a sales leader. So when I decided to make that transition, the people at the TV station thought I was crazy. Like, why would you leave TV? Why wouldn't you just keep going on to the next thing, like a different city? I was in Baltimore. So when I go to Washington, Philadelphia, San Francisco, bigger markets, the thing is, it was going to be the same stuff, different day. And I also, at the time, really what was inspiring me and pushing me is my family. Because at the time, my daughter, who's now 23, was 1 year old. And I looked at my situation and I thought to myself, anytime you work for someone else, they're in control. Let's be honest, right? If they're paying you a salary or an hourly wage, they have control over you. And I decided that I didn't want to be under anyone else's control, because I was going to miss her growing up. That I would not be able to take time off to do different events and be there for her. And I elected to go take control of my own destiny, which is what happens when you become self-employed as an entrepreneur, and then you're in control. It's not easy, but you have that control. And the one thing you can't put a price on, a dollar amount, is the flexibility to be there when someone needs you. So I never missed anything that she did. I mean, I was there I might have missed practices when it came to piano recitals or soccer, things like that. But I was there for every game, every recital, every event. I never had to ask permission. And again, it's a transition that's not simple, but you can do it just one foot in front of the other. I mean, going from television to insurance, what I realized pretty quick that all I needed was the ability to communicate and to get people to trust me. They're never buying the product, they're only buying you. Especially in insurance, it's not a tangible thing, it's a promise. You're actually offering people a promise, but you got to get them to buy, not sell them. But that was the big transition professionally I made in my life. And that was 22 years ago. And I never looked back. And it would be difficult for me to go work for someone else at this point, because once you realize your independence and experience it long enough, you don't want to go back to someone else telling you what to do.
Yeah. I've made that transition myself. And I know listeners, there are many who have also said, I'm going to be in charge of my own destiny here. And it isn't an easy decision, especially in a country that still really does push in a way the safer path, if there is such a thing. I use air quotes around the word safer because, I see stuff on LinkedIn, particularly about, I think it was the World Economic Forum just put out a video about results of a poll that they did. What do workers want today was the big question. And the 5 data points, or the 5 bullet points, if you will, I watched this, they were things like they want work-life balance, they want flexibility, they don't want to have to commute to an office, they want to get paid well, and they want security. That was one of them. And I thought, there is no such thing. There is no such thing as security. I mean, you were in television. What did we just see this week as we record this? We saw 2 huge television personalities move away from their networks. One of them was fired. So there's no security, no matter how far up the ladder in a corporate world you go. And so let's fast forward to today. Mark, you made that decision 22 years ago. And in that time, you've obviously done well with insurance, but now you're doing these other things that are completely outside of your insurance world. Let's get into the heart of the matter here, which is the You Matter movement. Tell us about that, and why are you so passionate? What is it? And then why are you so passionate about it?
I'll do that. Let's backtrack for 30 seconds on what you just talked about, which I don't even follow the news. So I didn't know what you were talking about. But
I'm sorry. I just assume people do.
No, that's great. That's great. I just learned something I didn't know. I'll go look it up later. But the thing about making that trend, like you talked about work-life balance, security, it's all a myth. It's all a myth. And so work-life balance is a myth. You have to focus on one thing. And when one thing becomes too much, let's say you're working too much, and you got to go back and say, well, my personal life needs some attention. And your personal life is going great, but your work needs attention. So it's always going to be a back and forth. There's no balancing act, especially if you want to do big things in the world. Secondly, security is, like you said, when you work for someone else, they are in control and they do not care, because most of the time it's a profit game. And when profits drop, or there's some type of, misinformation, or someone does something wrong, they just cut you. So when you go to work for yourself, it's a whole new ballgame. So that'll tie into You Matter, because I can tell you, Mary Lou, that if I had not left television, I never would have started blogging. I never would have written books. I never would have had this mission I felt inside of me, because I had to get close enough to myself and learn to be on my own, to feel what it is I was meant to do. And then to have this You Matter movement happen because of someone that I follow that told the story. And I never would have been in personal growth and self-improvement if I had stayed in TV. And my personal growth and self-improvement journey has been about 12 years, changed my whole life. So You Matter, if you want the genesis of it, it came to light for 2 reasons. Really, I got divorced or separated in 2016. Very difficult, very hardest time of my life. I have 2 daughters and my first wife. And so just really difficult time. And I started reading more books, and I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in that book, there's a philosopher and psychologist, William Jensen. And he states the one thing that I carry with me all the time and talk about, that the deepest principle of human nature is the craving to be appreciated. He does not say want. He does not say desire. He does not say need. He says craving. It's in our DNA. Like you need food and shelter. That's a need. You might want to do something, but the craving inside of you that every human being on the planet has, because we're all human beings and you can't walk away from that part of it, is to feel that we matter, that we're heard, valued, and appreciated. Because everyone wears an invisible sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. So outside of the inside of the divorce and my comeback from that, which my mastermind group was really instrumental in doing that, and some things I've been doing, tracking my goals for the year daily. And there's a program called Living Your Best Year Ever with Darren Hardy that I've been following with my mastermind group for a dozen years. It gave me something to focus on besides the pain I was feeling from that divorce, but also reading that book opened my eyes. And then I heard a story. So Darren Hardy, who's been my unofficial mentor for 12 years with his programs, he has this thing called Darren Daily, and it's a 5-day-a-week mentorship thing. It's only like 3 to 10 minutes. He might do a video every single day, but he told a story about 2 women who met, I think, at a grocery store, and then were talking in the parking lot, and the one woman was having a really bad time. And before the other woman left, she handed her a card. And on that card were 2 words. It said, "You matter." I listened to that story, and I thought to myself, why wouldn't I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't I create the same concept, get some cards made, start handing them out to people? And I can't tell you, the response is just off the charts most times, because especially people in service, they forget on a daily basis, because they're not always treated well by the customers that they're serving, that they matter.
Yeah.
You give them the card, you see the light in their eyes. I mean, I talked about this in a presentation I did just last week for a special group I'm part of. But I said, the one thing this gives me, which I've not been able to replicate in my life, is to see someone's heart in their eyes. Because you're touching their deepest craving in life. And they don't even know it sometimes. They don't think about it, but it's so deep inside of them. They don't know what to do with themselves sometimes when they see it. And sometimes people just say thank you and look at me, or they'll clutch it to their chest, or I get responses. I mean, I got an email that I read to the group from a woman that I met at a grocery store last year. And I've gotten many messages, but this was really pretty significant, because I didn't know this when I gave her the card, but she then found me through my website, filled out a contact form, and was basically ready to kill herself. And those 2 words inspired her to realize that it was worth hanging on. And then 6 months later, I followed up with her by email, and her whole life had changed. And it wasn't the 2 words that did that. She had to change her life, and it's really phenomenal what has happened with her. But it was the 2 words that inspired her just to remember that she has a purpose and a place on this earth, and that she has value. And she basically told me those 2 words probably saved her life. So that's how deep it goes inside of us. Again, it's a craving, not a desire, not a need, not a want, but a craving. And if I can get 1 billion people to believe that about themselves, and then tap into their inner self and use it in a way that shines a light that helps other people, it doesn't have to be something grand. It could be something small, but you're just making a difference, and you're really going inside yourself again to do all you can with all you have been given, because we've all been given so much. God doesn't make mistakes, create you, and then says, okay, let's go and see what you're going to do with this thing. It's not an experiment. It's a journey. And if I can get 1 billion people to do that, then the ripple effect would touch all 8 billion people on the planet.
It absolutely will. So you carry these cards with you everywhere you go, yes?
Yes, and I've had T-shirts made, but it's not a merchandising campaign. It's just, for me, it's because we have an Instagram page now too that I put up the pictures, and I'll tell you a story about going global with it too. But it's just about creating a global mission. But I want to create eventually here, what I'm moving toward is creating a mind power coaching program that will help people with this. Once they figure out that they're important, well, what do we do next? What's their desired outcome of all of this? And then help them get through that. So that's my next goal in life here, is to do that. So it's not, it's cool to have the cards and T-shirts and things like that, but a merchandising campaign is not going to save the world. Not about to save the world, but inspire the world. It's going to have to be deeper, where people go into the darkness to see the light. Mm-hmm. And we all have to do that to really, and that's what we talked about last week too, is that everything people do to not have to do that, to avoid that, to find addictions and drugs and pills and TV and social media, anything they can do to avoid going inside themselves to see who they are, face what we call running parachutes and release them, and then go, wow, I can do this with everything that I've got inside of me. I can make a difference. And we all can. Mm-hmm. Everyone can. Everyone can change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of my favorite sayings is change is inevitable, but personal growth is a choice.
It's optional.
Change is going to happen whether you want it or not, or whether you acknowledge it or not. I just wrote about this on LinkedIn. There's, change doesn't have to be radical to be meaningful. And we live in a time of extremes, extreme weather. There's a book called Extreme Ownership, which several of my guests have recommended. I have not yet read it. I think it speaks.
Is that Jocko?
Yes, it speaks it has a certain flavor, and it's interesting. I look at the even broader picture of why all this is happening, and it really is the convergence of several forces. One of them, probably the biggest one, is the tech changes that we've experienced in our lifetime, certainly, but in the last 20 years, 25 years, with the advent of the internet changed everything. It just did. And we have now 7 different generations, all mingling together on the internet as well as in real life. And each generation brings to life their own worldview, their own experiences. You and I didn't grow up with YouTube in our pocket. We didn't grow up with a phone in our pocket, but our children did, and their children will. I have cousins who have young children who are in the alpha generation, which is the youngest generation now. All they've known is tech. All they've known is that Instagram exists and Facebook and Snapchat and TikTok and all these things. And to think that these things don't have power to influence, to persuade, to shape the way we think about ourselves is a fool's game. And so your movement, Mark, the You Matter, Mark, is so needed because of all these forces converging, and we need to be reminded and appreciated for what we bring to the table. And it's really hard, as you know. So let's talk about your recent trip. You went overseas. You went, you were telling me in the pre-chat, you went to Italy, you went to France. What happened there connected to your You Matter movement, but also just what kind of vibe did you pick up on as you moved about?
It was so cool. So I'm going to give credit to one of my mastermind brothers, and this person as well, Rob Commodore.
Yay, Rob!
Yay, Rob!
Yes.
Yay, Rob! Great guy. And he gave me the idea. We have these chats, so we meet every other Friday for about 90 minutes, and we have a 30-minute call on Monday. And probably 4 to 6 weeks before I was heading for Europe, he said, "Why don't you get the You Matter cards made in their native language?" I said, "Oh, that's a great idea." Because I was going to take the cards with me, but then I have to explain it to people who don't speak English. So I had them made in French and Italian. Tu Contes is French, and Sei Importante in Italian. And I even had on the back of my English card, it has "You are a miracle, a masterpiece, and a hero," which everyone is. I had those words translated as well into French and Italian. Mary Lou, the response was off the charts. I mean, because people never saw this before. Not even, look, most people I hand You Matter cards to in America, they don't know this is coming either. I usually ask this person their name, tell them how beautiful it is, man or woman, and then say, "Hey, my name is Mark, and this is for you." I don't hang around long. I'm not there to say, "Hey, look at me." It's just give it to them, hopefully change the construct of their day and move on. But it was really cool, especially the Italians. They love this. I have pictures what I took with people. I didn't take pictures with everyone, but plenty I did. And it just changes everything. Like the light in their eyes. Like I said, I can see their heart in their eyes. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I remember that I matter. I remember I have a purpose. I remember that I'm here for a reason," or just simply to make you feel good. But you're touching their craving. That's what I need to emphasize here. They're the deepest, right? The deepest principle of human nature is the craving to be appreciated. So it's fuel, it's food, and it's part of our being, and you can't walk away from that. You can try, but you won't be able to. And look, people do things in life because they don't feel appreciated. Sometimes bad things. But the thing it proved to me, Mary Lou, is that it is a global craving. That no matter where I would go in the world, everybody would feel the same. To remember, to be reminded. It's usually better to be reminded than instructed. Reminded that you have a purpose and that you make a difference in this world just by being here. And that there's no way that there's not a single place on the planet that this wouldn't make a difference. And we all need to be connected this way because of the thing you just talked about, which is the internet, social media. So the internet was great because it does connect us and we need it. It makes us global. It makes us all connected all over the world. But social media steps in and makes you feel that you don't matter, that you're not worthy. Mm-hmm. Advertising, everyone's posts that are just fake, right? That just show the glory, but not the guts of what's happening. Because rarely can you pull back the curtain on someone's life and see the struggles they're having. And everyone you will ever meet in your entire life is going through something.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a good reminder to hear or see or feel or touch that you matter. And I know this has a significant place on this planet. I know that what I want to do is put a dent in the universe. Just to give you a 30-second explanation here. I mean, I've always been fascinated with the most famous people on earth. So taking Michael Jackson, who was my musical hero for a decade, because when he really came to just be so popular when I was about 15. So from 15 to 25, he ruled the music industry. And he used his talent in a way that he could not be ignored. It was impossible to ignore Michael's music. Impossible. That's why he became such a big artist and biggest album of all time. Steve Jobs, you might not like him as a person, but what he did, the marketing he did and the things that he pushed for to create, we have this thing we hold in our hands for a lot of us called an iPhone. And there was a time that you didn't need it, but now you can't live without it. Yes. How does that happen? And then someone like Mother Teresa, who gave in a way that was so magnificent that, again, she couldn't be ignored. At the deepest level of her being, she touched people's craving to be appreciated, to make them feel that they mattered. So you combine those things, Michael and Steve and Mother Teresa, that's who I want to be.
Oh, I love it.
and not to be famous, because again, you don't go out to be the most famous person in the world. That's short-sighted. That's just selfish. You do it because you give at such a high level and provide so much value to people on this planet that they can't ignore what it is that you're giving. Because the other thing about this is You Matter campaign also is in alignment with something I came up with a couple of years ago. There is no defense to love. You can have someone love you too much.
No.
You're going to share love. Someone's not going to go, I don't want that. I mean, on the rarest of occasions might that happen. There are people I hand the card to, they just look at me and go, what the hell's this? But that rarely happens. There is no defense to love. I had to get a little vulnerable. I mean, my divorce was the best divorce ever because there's no defense to love. And the greatest thing a man can do in his life is love the mother of his children. So my first wife and I have a great relationship. My daughter's never missed a beat. And it's because, in fact, we just traveled together for 5 days in Florence. We met each other there because my youngest daughter's studying abroad for a semester in Florence. So the ability to be able to be with people, we're not in the same physical space all the time, but we're always a family and always connected. And if you give love, you're going to receive it. It might not be in the moment, but you're going to get it back in some way. But the universe just conspires on your behalf. So there is no defense to love. And You Matter is really about sharing love at its core.
It's halftime here at the Play Your Position podcast, and we've got ourselves a great game. While you're up grabbing another snack and topping off your favorite beverage, make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss another play. PYP is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts can be found. Now, let's get back to the game.
Oh, man, I'm so moved. As you were describing the experience in Italy, I snuck a peek at your Instagram page. And team, you definitely got to check this out. Mark's going to share that a little bit later, how you can. But the pictures are phenomenal. The smiles on the people's faces, you cannot manufacture that. That is genuine, authentic. Like, wow. I love this. I absolutely love what you're doing in this conversation. And I think I can speak for Team PYP. How could you not be moved by what you just said? And I show up in love as well. I didn't always, and I think that's part of our journeys, becoming more of who we're meant to be. Is you do reach a point. I hope some people may reach it young. I've always felt love, and I've always known I was loved by my parents, particularly when I was teaching. My colleagues, my students, I loved and appreciated me, but I didn't 100% love myself. I was caught inside the swirl that everybody gets. You were talking about that earlier, the struggle of, am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I thin enough? Am I fit enough? Am I whatever enough? Fill in the blank. And again, the wisdom comes through experience, and sometimes hard experience like a divorce or a death. Divorce is a death of a marriage. So we do need to be reminded that life is not always easy, but we do always matter, and that love triumphs over everything. I'll tell you, it's are you familiar with the book, The Four Agreements?
Yes. In fact, I met the author and his sons at a seminar a couple of years ago.
Oh, how cool. I love the Four Agreements. And one of the ones that his first one is, use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. I say that to myself every single day. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. And that's exactly what you're doing, Mark, with You Matter cards. So Team PYP is probably wondering, okay, these cards sound incredible. Is there a way, do you have anything else on them, or do you just have those words on the front and back? Is your website on them? Is your email on them? Do you want them to look you up? How does that work?
Yeah, so now on the
if
back,
you're getting emails.
Yeah, now on the back of the card, it has the message, you are a miracle, a masterpiece, a hero. Because here's the thing, everybody flips the card over. So
yeah.
Because everyone thinks when I give them a You Matter card, I'm trying to sell them something, because everyone's skeptical and they think that this is just something that's not real. And that's why I would never put anything on the back that's anything related to my insurance business or anything that's going to make me a dime, because it's about love, right? So it says you are a miracle, masterpiece, a hero. There's a QR code for the Instagram page, which is You Matter MB. So Mark Brodinsky, You Matter, my first initial M and first initial last name B. And you can see the pictures there. There's youmattermb@gmail.com for people that want to take pictures and send them over. We can put them up on the page, but you don't need a card to do this. I just gave a talk at a seminar last week. It's called a Mind Power Breakthrough Talk. And there were about 30 people in the room. I said, why wouldn't you make this part of your campaigns in terms of marketing and trying to reach potential clients? Because everybody is craving this. So just make it part of your message. It's in the bottom of my email. You've gotten emails back and forth, Mary Lou, and you see my email signature. It says You Matter. Just put that in your email signature. Take a picture of it. I carry a picture of my card on my phone. So if I didn't have it with me, I could show it to somebody. And I send it out all the time when I'm talking to my clients, and just if I'm texting them, at the end of that message, usually I just send a picture of the two words, You Matter. And it just, everyone gives a heart or thumbs up, or just because they're probably surprised and shocked that someone would take the time or initiative to just give them those two words, because it's touching. I can't, again, I'm emphasizing a lot. I can't talk about it enough. You're touching the deepest craving they have in their being, is to make them feel that they are important. And I'll tell you what this also does. And there's a selfish piece of it too, but it just comes about organically. Like that example I gave you, that woman who was going to take her life maybe, and got the card and then sent me that email that night. But I responded immediately and even sent her a message telling I was there for her. And I sent her the suicide hotline number because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I had no other way to reach her. But then to get her another email 6 months later, because I'm working on the You Matter book. So that's what I'm working on this year. But the selfish part of that is this woman made me feel something, because I have the same craving she does. She made me feel that I mattered.
Wow.
And I want to feel that too.
Sure.
So the response I'm getting from the people that I'm reaching out to doing this, it reminds me that I matter. So if I'm having a bad day, go hand out a You Matter card or tell someone that, because what you're getting back is fulfilling your craving to know that I'm making a difference in the world. Because there are plenty of days I wake up and don't think that I'm doing anything. And we all do that. So we all get in our heads. And once you get in your head, you're dead.
Yeah, that's so true.
You've got to think differently and then go take action. The thing is about getting out of your head is action. It's just go do a workout, meditate, take a walk, go outside and breathe, or just walk outside your front door and realize that although you think the world has stopped, inside of you, it's still spinning and it will never stop spinning. And the sun's going to rise and the sun's going to set. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So you might as well get on board the train and take the ride, because this is going to kill you, right? At some point, life is going to end. So whatever you're doing, it's going to kill you. So we just don't know when. So you might as well make this the best experience you possibly can in your ride on this planet, because it's not going to be that long. You're not going to have a lot of time to make maybe the impact you even think you could. And time is of the essence, because we don't know when this journey is going to end. But at the same time, to walk through every day and feel that you matter, you do make a difference, that you're valued and appreciated is huge. It's huge.
It is.
And what you talked about on LinkedIn, what you said that the people wanted, in their workplace, the number one thing they want is to feel valued and appreciated for what it is that they're doing. And that's bigger than money, because like in my insurance company, they come for the money, but they stay for the culture and they stay for the appreciation. They don't want to leave that. It feels too good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of conversations going on today around a dilemma. It's a real leadership problem of retaining people, building cultures where people feel like they matter. It is interesting. We do tend to be attracted to the money as much as we don't want to admit it. Or some people go, I have no shame in admitting it. It's not necessarily a shameful thing. It's just again, culturally, we still are not able collectively to talk about money in a healthy way. We all need money to live. Money, people, I've heard it said when they go, money doesn't buy happiness. And then people say, yeah, that's coming from people who haven't had any. I mean,
correct.
It's money is a tool, and yet there's so much emotion and all this stuff. And that's a different rabbit hole we won't go down. But your point about the need for appreciation, no, not even the need, the craving, that word is so powerful, that we crave appreciation. And I can't think of a time when I didn't feel amazing when someone appreciated what I did. And, your movement, this You Matter movement is, it's powerful. I'm really have a lot of respect for what you've come up with. And I think it's cool. So for people who, can people get involved in this? And if so, how?
They can get involved. If they want to contact me right now, my YouMatter.mb.com is still in progress. It should be done in a few weeks, but I have a markbrodinsky.life is my website. There's a contact form there. I can't send out cards to everybody, but you can have your own cards made. It's not that expensive to have a You Matter card made. And that doesn't have to be the card. Just find it online. You can, if you Google You Matter, you'll find something that represents that. I'm not the only person in the world doing this. I'm the only person in the world that I've seen that has a period after the two words, because to me, it's end of sentence, full stop, game over, drop the mic. You don't need anything after that. So it is its own sentence. I've seen You Matter cards out there. There's You Matter movement. Actually, I think another campaign, but it doesn't have the period after the words. And the words are not as, my card is red in the background and the letters are white. They're actually raised. You can actually touch the letters and feel that you matter. But to get involved in it, it would be just, if you want to find You Matter anywhere and take a picture of yourself, the selfie, or have someone take a picture with you even holding up your phone and the words next to it, and email me at youmattermb@gmail.com. We'll get it up on our Instagram page and we'll make it famous, and we'll make it part of the global community, which it is now, since I've been to Italy and France, even made a stop in Switzerland for a layover and gave that stewardess there the card, took a picture with her. So technically it was 3 countries that I visited over a 10-day period, and plan to travel more. So the goal is to really make this global, and again, develop a program people could tap into that will take this to a deeper level in terms of some coaching and other things they could do, practices, habits, disciplines. I have a meetup that's called Change Your Mind, Change Your Life, that I do once a month, the third Monday of every month. If you Google, if you go to meetup.com and just search Change Your Mind, Change Your Life, you can become part of that community, which has over 2,000 members. And we do a live Zoom once a month. Now, not all 2,000 are on there, but it just shows you that people want to think differently. They want to feel valued. They want to feel loved. And there's no person on this earth that doesn't want to feel that they are important, valued, appreciated. That's their deepest craving in life.
Yeah. Well, thank you for clarifying about the cards. I wondered about that. So, team, if you want to go have cards made, do it. I think that's an excellent idea.
That's what I did.
Yeah. You got the idea from someone else. So it's not that you've patented this and nobody can, I love that it's open source, right? We live in an open source world. WordPress is an open source platform, and look at how many amazing websites and companies have built themselves up with theme creation and stuff. That's the generosity that the internet affords. I know it's easy to focus on the negative side of particularly social media with our youth and the whole mental health conversation and the compare to despair. And, all we see are the highlight reels, I have seen a change with some pretty powerful celebrities like Drew Barrymore and Alicia. Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. She was a big artist in the 90s. She was married to the frontman of Nickelback. Alicia, anyway, drawing a blank on her last name, but they're putting stuff on their Instagram page of pictures of themselves looking absolutely not put together. And they have like social media versus reality. That's a big movement that started to show that so much of what we see is filtered and fake and not what a person really looks like at all. And I think it's fascinating, especially being a female. I look at some of these younger women's profiles and I'm like, this doesn't look like a real person. And yet that's how they present themselves to the world. Oh my goodness.
And now you have no idea because artificial intelligence can create anything now. So believe me.
Yes, it can.
There's plenty of fake people all over the place that, you're looking at. It's not even them.
Right.
In fact, during this program from last week, they told us there are airports you can actually go to and you pay like $50 and you can go out to a private jetliner and take selfies on the private jetliner, which makes it look like you're traveling that way. So it's not, I think everyone should always put their best foot forward. I don't need to see pictures of people unmade up or, show me what you can look like and make yourself attractive to the world, but give love.
Right.
Just give love. I don't care how you're presenting yourself, whether you're without makeup, with makeup, but if you're giving love, then people will just appreciate who you are and not really care about what it is that you're looking like as much. It's more about your message and the heart that you give and touching our deepest craving, which is to feel that we matter. So in that same social post where they're just showing that they're real, okay, well, tell me that I'm important because what's in it for me? Mm-hmm. There's always that question we ask ourselves when we're talking to someone or reading something or getting a card. And that's why everyone always flips it over. What's in this for me?
Right.
Nothing except love. You're a miracle, a masterpiece, and a hero. You flip the card over, it goes even deeper almost than you matter. Because I believe that everyone is.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a beautiful sentiment, Mark. And you are shining light in the universe. And I think I'm moved. I really am. I'm having trouble coming up with what to say as we wrap things up. So I'm going to ask you my end of conversation question, which is share a couple of books that have been instrumental on your leadership journey. You're part of a mastermind, which is fabulous, and you lead some meetup groups and you're doing the movement, but who inspires you? What are a couple of books you could share with us?
Sure. And I need an army, Mary Lou. So what you're talking about is what we need. I can't impact 1 billion people by myself. Steve Jobs didn't do it alone. Michael Jackson had the greatest producer probably ever lived, Quincy Jones. Mother Teresa had people that helped her. So it's not like you can't do this by yourself. We all need each other as a social tribe. So the more people that believe in the message I'm talking about and go out and take action with it, the better off the world's going to be. If they want to send pictures and we can, get on Instagram and then whatever else I'm going to develop and want to become a part of that, that's cool. I need people. We all need each other. So a couple of books, of course, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I talked about. William Jensen's in there, which is it's just one of the greatest books to really make sure you appreciate and value everyone that you speak to and how you speak to them and what you're saying and listening, because you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listen twice as much as you speak. The War of Art, which not a lot of people except in personal growth circles know about. It's by a guy named Stephen Pressfield. Mm-hmm. Read that about 10 years ago, did a 180 on my brain because it's all about resistance. And the thing that you're fighting every single day, and we all do every single minute of every single day, is resistance of not being who we're supposed to be, of not doing the things we know we're supposed to do, of not taking action. And we have to battle back against that. Once you fight back against resistance, he's got a book called Turning Pro, which is like the next level, but that's the beast. And it's resistance with a capital R. Huge, impactful book in my life. The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. She wrote The Secret. The Magic is a 28-day program of gratitude, which if you actually tap into that and do those exercises for 28 days, your entire life will change because of what you attract into yourself. And I guarantee you in that month, something will happen in your life you never saw coming in a good way. And then I'm reading, I'm reading it again, a book called You Are Awesome by Neil Pasricha. And it's a book, How to Navigate Change, Wrestle with Failure, and Live an Intentional Life. And this book, he's written a couple, but this book he said was focused on resiliency. So being resilient no matter what. And he gives you nine tools in there to do that. It's so well written. The stories he tells are so personal, and I can relate to some of them actually right now in my personal life. So really just a great book. You Are Awesome, which ties into You Matter, right? It's almost the same message. Mm-hmm. And I have a signed copy actually. So I'm really proud of that. And I can't say enough about that book that I'm rereading right now. And then Mind Power Breakthrough with this couple, Steph and Shay, which is the program I'm in now. Mind Power is bigger than life coaching. It's a whole other way to look at life and to not to battle back against your demons, but to hug them and then release them and to really create a mindset in your life that you can do that for other people as well. And it's really cool. So those are some books that have touched me in different categories in my life. And of course, Darren Hardy, who's been my mentor, now Steph and Shay. And so Darren Hardy I've been with for, like I said, a dozen years, and he changed my whole life.
Yeah.
And I never even met the man in person.
Well, that is what the power of showing up consistently, having a consistent message, and making the decision. Mark, you decided I'm going to get involved on this personal growth path. And I'll tell you, I echo everything you said about how it changes your life. And you wonder, how did I function before I knew some of this stuff? And it also makes you realize how little we really do know and how exciting it is to continue to discover more about who we are and what we can do. It's fantastic. And you have set the bar at a wonderful level. It's not so high that it's impossible to get over, but it does challenge us to think, how can we show up more in love each day? How can we, through our behavior, through our mindset, through our choices, let other people know that they really do matter? And I just want to thank you for taking your time to be on the show today. Team, make sure you follow Mark on Instagram. Again, a link to that page will be on his show notes page at pyppodcast.com, along with the books he mentioned. And you'll certainly be able to Google him and find his new website once it's up and running. But we'll put a link to his existing website now because that may forward eventually. Get involved. Tell somebody today that they matter in honor of Mark. And Mark, just keep doing what you do. You are the epitome of playing your position, and I'm so grateful.
I appreciate that, Mary Lou, and I think you're doing great things in the world as well. And I really am grateful for the time to talk about this. I have other things. I've written books and I do storytelling on blogs and things like that. But right now, the overarching message is the You Matter campaign, and I'm doing storytelling still, but it kind of fleshes out people's. When I tell a story, people read it and they go, "Oh my God, I matter." So it's really all in the same vein. Because you read your story or someone else reads your story and you're like, oh my goodness, this person makes a difference in the world. So it all ties into the same thing. But I really am just couldn't be more thrilled to be a part of this. I appreciate you bringing me on and look forward to staying connected and with your entire audience here and team. Just like I said, so find a way to make someone feel valued and appreciated today. It doesn't have to be You Matter card. Just do what it is you can to touch their deepest craving in their heart, which is to believe that they're important and appreciated.
Hey team, Mary Lou here. Who's number one in football changes from year to year.
Fashion trends come and go, same with musical tastes. But leadership skills, they never go out of style. In fact, these days, leadership is an essential survival skill for a world that demands more from us than ever before. To succeed these days, you need to know how to show up for yourself so that you can then do the work you love with people you like the way you want. The Play Your Position Leadership Playbook helps you do this, and it's free. Go to pyppodcast.com to download your copy today. If being more successful this year, next year, in the 21st century is on your to-do list, get your copy of the Play Your Position Leadership Playbook now. pyppodcast.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. That's pyppodcast.com, and start being more of the leader you are meant to be today. This podcast was produced by Daniel Romeros. Show notes for this episode can be found over at pyppodcast.com. I'm Mary Lou Kaiser. Thanks for listening.
Here at the Play Your Position podcast, we believe that the road to self-mastery and a life well lived starts with answering the call to leadership. That's when the fun really begins. Send this episode to any friends who might need to hear the inspiration and ideas you heard today. And feel free to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform.